Hello, everyone. I'm so excited because I have a fabulous guest today. Come on in. Let's do some radical awakening conversations. We're talking about stuff in my book. You're not going to want to miss this. I have a fabulous guest. And she's going to join us any minute. You know, these Instagram things are always dicey. So I have a beautiful woman coming. Um, and we're going to have a great conversation around radically awakening. Hello, everyone. Come on in. What did you do this morning to take care of yourself? I went on a long, sweaty walk, which is why I'm all sweaty, and got my breath all activated and got myself out in nature. So, you do to love yourself this morning? How did you take from nature? Yay,
Hi,
there's my guest. There's
how
my
are you?
guest. Okay, so I haven't introduced you, and I'm going to do it with you. So I have Kara Lowenthal. Is that how I pronounce your name?
Close. That was 90%. Cara Lowenthal.
Lowenthal. Hello, Kara Lowenthal. I'm
Hi.
so excited to have you here.
Me too. I'm excited to be here.
So we're going to talk about themes from my book, A Radical Awakening, and learn about Kara's A Radical Awakening. Kara was a lawyer. I don't know whether you're still a
I
practicing
was,
lawyer.
no, I have even resigned my license to my parents' dismay. I'm no longer a member of the bar. It's Cara, like the car you drive.
Oh, Kara.
Yes, there
Okay.
we go.
So Kara was a lawyer and then quit that to find fulfillment and purpose. So talk to us about your journey, about your radical awakening.
Yeah, my parents definitely thought it was a radical awakening, my Jewish parents. So I always say I've been a professional feminist one way or another in my whole life. So I used to do that in the law and policy sense. I was a reproductive rights litigator. Reproductive rights, and then I did. Are we having a reception issue? Okay, I seem fine. Hopefully, Dr. Shefali is fine also. And then I, excuse me, and then I moved into academia, where I did reproductive law and policy stuff. And then, as one does, I was supposed to become a law professor, and then I woke up and was like, why not? Let's become a life coach instead. So it was obviously somewhat more went into it than that, but it did feel sort of like it descended as a like revelation. Like I woke up one morning and I was like, this is what I'm going to do. But I always tell the story, but I always tell it because I think it's so telling. I was talking like a few months later, I was talking to a friend I only see once in a while. And I was like, wild news. I quit the law. I'm going to be a life coach. Have you ever heard anything so, insane? And she was like, you're always joking that you want to quit the law and become a life coach. I was like, not even aware that I was always making this joke subconsciously, that that's what I wanted to do because I like couldn't bring myself to confront that until all of a sudden I was ready to jump.
Wow. So you had an epiphanic moment, but it was really a subconscious,
Yeah.
constant conversation. So why life coaching and why not law? Like, what did you find that life coaching was calling to you for, and what was law taking you away from?
Yeah. I mean, in some ways, a lot of what I do is similar, which is like think very critically about what are the things we believe are true? How are we making our decisions? What should life and society look like? But um, I always felt with law like we were all playing, it's sort of like a big chess game. It's like there's certain moves you're allowed to make, and then people make their different moves, but we're all kind of proceeding from whatever our original beliefs are. Like I'm making the moves towards pro-choice, and then somebody else is making the moves to argue for the other side, right? And with coaching, it really felt like I finally understood the human experience, like what was going on, why my life was the way it was. So I focus mostly on helping women examine the ways that socialization has taught them how to think about themselves and changing those thought patterns. And I think for me, I just felt like everything I had tried before coaching, I had gotten a lot of insight and a lot of awareness, and there was like no actual change strategy. It was just sort of like, now we're aware of all our dysfunctional patterns. We'll just watch ourselves keep doing them. And so when I discovered the work that I teach, and it changed my life so much, it just felt like this way. It sort of felt like there's so many people doing policy work and making the arguments about, like the legal arguments or whatever. But there were very few, and when I started, even fewer people actually teaching women how to identify the way that socialization impacts your personal life in your brain and how to change it. And so that just felt like this huge unmet need.
Wonderful. This is what my book is about. I don't know whether you've read it yet,
Yeah.
but the book really speaks to how culture has indoctrinated women to view themselves in
Yeah.
a particular way. And we don't even realize that
Right.
we are succumbing to a cultural conditioned viewpoint. We think we've arrived at it on our own, or it's
Totally.
authentic. And so in your life, I know you've worked around your body image issues and how culture has defined body image for women, how culture has defined beauty. So talk to us about your very personal as you're willing to get,
Yeah.
your
I have
struggle
no
with.
filter. I mean, if you listen to my podcast, it's all the Unfuck Your Brain podcast. It's all out there. So I'm happy to talk about it.
So talk to us
Yeah.
about what you felt was a conflict within yourself and culture, or how you were feeling trapped or overwhelmed by culture's dictates of how you should look.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say first, I think our work is so simpatico in that sense. It's so important for women to understand that, like, it doesn't sound in your brain like it's coming from society, right? Like, it sounds like it's coming from you. So I always, like, it would be if it was like a white male announcer in your brain being like, you really should lose weight to be lovable. Then you'd be like, oh, that's not me. Okay, that's from the outside. But that's not what you hear, right? You just hear your own voice when you look in the mirror be like, no, you really should be thinner. Maybe no one's gonna be attracted to you. Maybe your husband's not attracted to you. You won't be able to find a part, right? You have to understand that, like, just because it sounds like your voice in your head doesn't mean you are the originator of that, or that it's right, that it didn't come from outside and get filtered through your voice. The name of the podcast is the Unfuck Your Brain podcast. I see a comment asking. So
Unfuck your brain. And
Unfuck
I
Your
know you
Brain.
sing it so fast.
Sorry, Unfuck Your Brain podcast.
Unfuck your brain. I
Unfuck
love
Your
it.
Brain. Yeah.
Yes.
I do talk fast. Sorry, I'm a Jew from New York. So body image was one of the first areas that I worked on myself, and I think it's an area where a lot of women are pretty aware, actually. I mean, there's some areas where our social conditioning is more hidden. I think with body image stuff, it's like, at this point, we all know it's out there that society is telling us to look a certain way, right? But what I experienced, which I think a lot of women experienced, is, and not just women, people of all gender identities, is that you can know intellectually all you want that there's like a multi-billion-dollar diet industry, and that there's Photoshop, and that there's Facetune and cosmetic surgery, and that we have an unrealistic body image, and that does not make you feel any better when you look in the mirror, right? You still have the thoughts that are like, but I shouldn't have a double chin, and my hair is frizzy, and look at my crow's feet, and my stomach is flabby, and whatever else you're thinking. And so for me, as somebody who lives in a larger body, I had, spent my whole life trying to lose weight so that I would finally get what society had promised me, right? If you look a certain way, then you're going to be accepted, you're going to feel loved, you'll never have to feel sad or rejected ever again, right? Now I call it like the exit ramp from the human experience. Like, so many things are promised to us that if we just get them or buy them or do them or have them, we're going to get an exit ramp off the human experience. We'll never have to feel sad again. We'll always feel great. And so I spent, 20, 30 years engaged in like chronic dieting, and then trying to lose weight and gaining weight and binging and purging and like the whole 9 yards. And then, hilariously enough, I discovered this sort of form of reframing in the last weight loss program I ever tried to do. And they were sort of teaching that, like, sure, you can lose weight. That's not going to change your thoughts and feelings about yourself. You have to do that separately. And I was sort of like, okay, but if I could do that part, then like we don't have to do this part, right? We don't actually need to lose the weight, which especially, the statistics tell us 90 to 97% of people regain the weight they've lost within 3 to 5 years. Like, people are doing this over and over again. You could just change the way that you're thinking and feeling to create what you want. And so I did that, and it was painstaking. Like, I spent a whole summer walking around New York City, and every time I saw, you live in Manhattan, there's like literal models and actresses walking around the street. Like, the unrealistic beauty image in New York is actually like outside and on the sidewalk wandering around. And I spent a whole summer walking around New York saying to myself, every time I saw a conventionally beautiful woman, all beings suffer, right? Like, this is not looking this way. It does not mean that you sort of escape human suffering, which is what we're told it means and why we want it so much, and doing really basic reframing of my thoughts about my body. So I'm a big proponent of neutral, I call them ladder thoughts, like most of us cannot go from my stomach is disgusting to I'm a beautiful fertility goddess and I should be worshipped, right? And so I did a lot of reframing of like, this is a human stomach. There are other stomachs that look like mine. Like my legs carry me through the world, right? Really neutral thoughts to start to rewire the circuits in my brain and the way that I thought about my body. And then from there, I was able to build up. And now I think my body is beautiful and amazing. But I think a lot of people who could benefit from coaching, positive thinking, all that kind of work, they don't get the benefit they could because they're being taught to try to believe something that they can't believe yet. That's too far. They don't get any emotional payoff. They just feel worse. And so I'm a big proponent of like small, neutral, baby step thoughts, practicing those. Then the next one, like this is the lawyer in me, like very concrete. What are the steps we're going to take here? Not sort of, I will manifest a new body image overnight.
Yeah, in my book, I talk about, and this may be politically incorrect to some, I don't know, but
I won't tell on you.
I in my colonization of beauty chapter, I talk about, the standard of beauty and the hyper focus on the skinny white female. But I also have a chapter here called Moving Beyond Beautiful. And I say what I'm about to say now is a huge paradigm shift in what is considered politically correct. So here's what I say. The popular motivational industry will tell women, no, you're beautiful. No, you're beautiful.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, I'm ugly. And then, no, you're beautiful. So you're having this stupid, like, dualistic diatribe, an argument across both sides of the aisle.
Yeah.
And really, it's not about your need to find yourself beautiful, because that's another form-based attachment, or call yourself ugly.
Yeah.
You just can say it is what it is. Like you.
Totally.
These legs get me through. But guess what? If you have varicose veins, you don't have to say, I don't have varicose veins. I have beautiful legs. You can just say I have varicose veins. Or you can just say, when I have a double chin, I go, I have a double chin. Yeah. Now, it's not, when my daughter was young, she told me that my arms were flabby, right? She was like, oh my goodness, look at your arms. And it was at a party in front of everyone. Mom, jiggly arms, okay? And my instinct was to say, no, they're beautiful, right? Because I was thinking jiggly arms means ugly. So I wanted to say, no, they're beautiful. And then I realized, no, they're jiggly. They are jiggly. So I said, yeah, you don't have jiggly arms? And she's like, no. I'm like, then you can't fly across the room. And I made fun of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, my jiggly arms are like a helicopter. And we laughed about it because I surrendered to the isness of whatever she chose to see. So this is moving beyond motivation, beyond the desire to call yourself beautiful or ugly. Don't get trapped in that mindset, because the mindset itself is a trap.
Yeah.
It is what it is. So many times my teenage daughter, she's 18, through the years, she will come to me and tell me, does this make me look fat? And I always say, it makes you look exactly how you look, because I don't say, no, you look so skinny, because then I'm idolizing the skinny standard of look.
Yeah.
I don't get it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And guess what? If somebody is fat, or clinically, fat has been used as a weapon.
I mean, I use the word fat. I think most fat people have reclaimed the word fat. I totally agree. I mean, I think I leave it as an option. I think for some people, body neutrality is the best, is what they want, right? There's obviously a whole argument to be made, like you're making, that even why do we need to think that we're beautiful, right? Why are we playing into the idea that this is the most important thing? Obviously, certain people are socialized to think that's more important than other people. So I think that's totally legit. And a lot of people, what they want is just neutrality, right? And then I think also human cultures for thousands of years have engaged in ritual kind of adornment and modification of bodies. We have a long, obviously, anthropological history. Some people are more aesthetically focused than others in all areas of their lives. And so I'm like pretty non-dogmatic in my work. It's like, what is going to work for you? Different thoughts work for different people, and even for different body parts. There are parts of my body that I do enjoy finding beautiful because that was so different from where I was before, that feels like an amazing victory, and I get pleasure out of that. Although I try to make sure that I'm never doing it based on something that sort of will change with age. It's not kind of like, oh, I look so young today. Like, age is coming,
you've
right?
gotten out of the external metrics of beautiful.
Yeah, you have to redefine it for yourself. But also there are parts of my body that I'm just at neutrality with. And it's it's not like I'm trying to get past that. That's where I am. And so I think there's such a range of ways for people to relate to their bodies, but always you have to go through neutral, because that's the place where you realize, as you're saying, it's all made up. All the thoughts are made up. Everything you're thinking is made up. It's all just human thoughts. So it is just literally a piece of flesh, and that's even a human word. And then you get to decide, how do you want to think about it? Do you want to spend time trying to find it beautiful? Do you want to be like, I got more important shit to do, I'm not even bothering with that? I think for everybody, there's sort of a different way through.
Yeah. Let's talk about, adornment has been part of the rituals of culture. Sand, and people have used sand and the earth to adorn them when the tribal communities have done that. But now our obsession with perfection has taken us from adornment to massacre, like, it's not just a little bit of mascara now. Now it's like, there's no stopping point, as you see. Now the ears have to be perfect, and the cheekbone, and we've gone from just like tits to tits and ass, to tits and ass and waist, and tits and ass and waist, and ankles, and now eyelashes, and then the nose. And so do you see that with women, that because the people on the magazine covers are extolling and espousing perfection on every level, that your clients also get trapped in that?
Totally right. It's kind of ever escalating, right? And I think, to me, the difference is, first of all, I come from maybe because I come from the law and a kind of critical theory background, I come from we're all complicit to some extent, right? I'm wearing lipstick right now. We are all complicit in all of these systems. None of us live outside of them. And we also live with certain, you meet some standards of conventional beauty. I meet some standards of conventional beauty. That makes it a little easier for us to live in these systems, and means our experience of divesting from beauty norms is not the same as somebody who doesn't have some of those attributes, right? None of us are existing in a vacuum, and we don't all have the same amount of work to do to divest from those norms, because some of us benefit from them in different ways. So I think that I start from the premise that there's no purity. We're all going to be complicit in this. And I think that, especially coming from law, you can spend your whole life debating the edge or extreme cases, and meanwhile, most of your life is lived here just in reality in the middle, right? And so for me, the kind of functional thing I try to teach people to think about is, I like a red lip, great. Do I feel I can't leave the house if I don't have my makeup on? Do I feel like I can't think I'm pretty or have sex with my partner or whatever, or experience desire or be desired? Am I embarrassed to be seen without it? Do I think, have I tied my self-worth or my self-esteem, or am I? That's what I want people to be thinking about, not kind of, am I meeting a sort of, am I meeting the purity test of not being at all invested in beauty norms? I just don't know that that's possible the way we've been conditioned.
You can't. And that's why there's a range, adornment is so part of our culture. And then when do you go to wanting to massacre or change, or you cannot leave your house? And I think people have to make that choice. And I can see that it's on a continuum. It's okay on a Friday night to go all out and go crazy, and then on another day to allow the flexibility to be completely divested. And
I always feel do you feel anxious if you think about not doing it? That's a bad sign, right? If you feel anxious about not putting on the lipstick, or anxious about not getting the surgery or whatever, if you feel like it's not okay to be the way you are if you don't do the thing, that's when it's really impeding your life.
Yep. So Kara, you have a podcast, and tell us what else you're up to and what else you're doing.
What do I do with myself? Pandemic time has become a strange morass of everything feels like it was yesterday, and also it feels like it's been 10 years. I have a podcast. It is called Unfuck Your Brain, obviously. I do talk about body image, but I talk about the same, obviously, metric, just like your book touches on so many areas we've been talking about, applies to so many areas of women's lives, and a lot of areas that aren't as obvious as body image, where people really, body image just has been so publicized. I think we have more awareness about the sort of socialization, but how women think about themselves at work and the office, how they show up in their relationships and parenting, in every area. So you can find my work on Unfuck Your Brain, and then that's really always the best place to go. And then I also have a feminist membership community called The Clutch, but I always recommend people go listen to the podcast and then that speaks to you, there'll be information there about kind of how to find more. And you can follow me on Instagram, I guess. We're on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram. Click my little name.
Follow her on Instagram at Cara.
Cara
I can't
Lowenthal. I know
Lowenthal.
nobody can. It's the good news is there's not that many Lowenthals.
Type it up there for us, Cara. Can you just
Oh,
type it?
yeah. Somebody actually just put my name like two
Yeah,
kind
let's
of
do it
left.
again.
All
So
right,
follow
I'm on my
Cara
phone.
if you're interested in helping women, working on yourself, understanding greater self-acceptance.
And I should say not just women. I sort of, the way I think about it is if you were socialized as a woman or you identify as a woman. Like sort of if you are, people have different gender identities now potentially, but if you were kind of assigned female at birth, socialized as a woman, we've all obviously, and all this applies to men in different ways too, but I focus on the socialization you get when society is like, hey, you're a girl, here's who you should be, how you should look, how you should act. That's what I focus on.
I love it. I love it. So thank you for having me. I'm going to be on your podcast.
Yes, tomorrow. We're just having a week of bonding and public talk. So you can also look out for Dr. Shefali on my podcast.
Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for coming, Cara. And everyone follow her and listen to the podcast when it comes out on Unfuck Your Brain.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Cara, thank you so much for being here.
Bye everybody.
Guys.